Hello and welcome to my channel. Try This is a series where I break down interesting commanders, and today I'm going to be covering Solphim, Mayhem Dominus. If you enjoy this content, then please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It helps other viewers discover the content I produce and is a great way to show support. With that said, let's dive in. Solphim is a 5/4 Phyrexian horror that costs 2 red. They double all non-combat damage you deal to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls. For 1 generic, 2 Phyrexian red mana, and discarding 2 cards, we can put an indestructible counter on it. Well, this commander just screams Dragon Approach to me. For those of you not familiar with that card, basically it's the first non-creature form of have however many of them in your deck that you want cards. It deals 3 damage to each opponent and lets us eventually tutor for dragons and put them onto the field. With our commander out, that's 6 damage to each opponent for only 3 mana. That's a really good deal, especially when we can put any number of them in our deck. Discarding cards to give our commander indestructible is just an extra bonus to keep our damage doubler around. If we want, we can even pitch extra dragon approaches to tutor out a dragon faster. I think in this deck it's far more worth it to burn down our opponents with those cards, though it's an interesting option to have as we can use this ability any number of times. So for example, if we've already made it indestructible earlier in the game and we want to tutor out a dragon, we can just activate this again to populate the yard for our next cast of Dragon's Approach. I've seen a lot of Dragon Approach decks out there, but I've never built one myself. Spell-slinging decks aren't really my thing normally, but this commander looked really cool, and doubling so much damage really puts burn strategies on the map for EDH. It was a cool build challenge to get out of my comfort zone, and I think it's worth checking out if you want to branch into a burn strategy. Alright, let's start out with probably the most important card in this deck, Throwing Stone. This is one of the few decks I think this card is actually worth running in. In the creature decks, it's typically not worth it outside of Shadowborn Apostle. It's really risky to get all of your creature base out this way, but in a sorcery burn deck, it's exactly what we need. Ripple is an old and odd mechanic that could flop, but if your deck is roughly a fifth of the card that you cast, it's likely you'll get plenty of hits. Since you cast the cards you ripple into, those ripple as well, causing this avalanche of damage that will likely just end the game. It's not the only thing we need to rely on for burn damage though. Mono red is pretty good at this. Descent into Avernus and Valakut are some other great sources. Descent does ramp everyone and damage us, but our commander only doubles the damage dealt to our opponents, so they'll get burned out far before us this way. Waiting for every upkeep can be a bit slow, but by the 3rd turn we'll have dealt a total of 24 damage to every opponent this way. First turn is 4 damage, second 8, and third 12. With Solphim having indestructible, we can essentially just wait out our opponents. Valakut is far slower, but being able to eventually deal essentially 6 damage per land drop is a really nice deal. I think if you're looking for budget cuts though, this is probably a good start. Speaking of budget cuts, Fiery Emancipation and Arcane Bombardment are 2 amazing enchantments for this list, but Emancipation is roughly $30 at the time of recording, while Bombardment is around $4. Bombardment is an easy budget replacement and arguably better anyway depending on the situation. I think Fiery Emancipation is a badass card and I like using it, but I don't think it's really worth picking up specifically for this deck. It's one of those catch-all cards that you slot into a variety of things, so if you have multiple homes for it, then maybe it's worth picking up. Both of these cards synergize with spell-slinging ping effects like Gutter Snipe, Electrostatic Field, and Firebrand Archer. These creatures also get doubled up with our commander to burn our opponents even more. 1 Dragon Approach with Electrostatic Field deals a total of 8 damage to each opponent, 10 if Gutter Snipe is out. The Archer works with non-creature spells too, which is a majority of the deck, so that's bonus damage on cast for most of our spells. It wouldn't be a spell-slinging deck without some ways to copy them. Primal Amulet will be easy to flip, and its landslide will copy our instant and sorceries. Our Pyromancer Ascension is a great budget card to synergize with Dragon's Approach. It's a great enchantment that's easy to set up and copies all of our Dragon Approaches for free. Being only 2 mana, we can get it out on curve to set up for later turns. Some other great utility for the list are Stormkiln Artist, Sir Kara, and Neheb. Neheb and the Artist just make mana for us. Kara gives us some great card advantage while also having a damage source tied into the card. This card advantage can be a bit risky since things go into exile, but that's sort of a typical red advantage, and with so much damage being thrown around, it's well worth including here. I didn't include a ton of dragons in my example list. Some dragons have great utility we can tutor for, but mostly it just made more sense to me to add some more synergy with non-combat damage or sorcery spells for the list instead of adding some bomb dragons. I think for utility, some of the best ones you could add are Backdraft Hellkite and Nullspine Dragon. Backdraft gives your remaining dragon approaches in the yard flashback for some added value. Nullspine will at least draw you 3 cards, but can easily draw you more depending on how the game's going. Hellkite Tyrant and Dracoseth are some game closers we could tutor for. With so much artifact synergy going around in the last couple of sets, The Tyrant can be a reasonable alternate win condition until the meta of EDH gets shaken up a bit. Dragoseth is another burn source that gives us flexible options on where to toss the damage. He essentially has a better Dragon's approach tied into his attack trigger. I want to briefly touch on some card draw elements for this deck. We need more Dragon approaches in hand to burn our opponents and cards that discard for our commander's ability. Mono Red is pretty good at this with plenty of looting effects. Cards like Faithless Looting, Tormenting Voice, and Seize the Spoils are some good examples. You can find plenty of rummage cards like this to fill out gaps in your deck if you're having trouble with card advantage. Miko Koharu, War Room, and Gaia Reach Sanitarium are some great options for decks that struggle with this. And Mono Red, War Room won't hurt too badly, and the other two are nice options in a pinch, even though they give your opponent some value too. These are more budget-friendly cards to help fill those card advantage gaps. Red also has access to several wheel effects and Wheels of Fate and Misfortune, along with Magnus of the Wheel. Though we'd rather cast the Dragon approaches, if we need to dump a few into the yard for the sake of having more cards, it's not a big deal. It just enables the tutor at that point. Wheel of Misfortune also synergizes with our commander to dish out some extra damage. I didn't cover every card in this deck or every suggestion I have for Solphim, so if you'd like to see the rest, check out the deck list in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel. Comment below on cards you think synergize well with this commander, and if you have any suggestions for commanders to build in the future. Thank you so much for watching, good luck, and have fun.